yeah, we are connected, and really nice of you, Rafael, to come in. I will not tell people the story of how this was going to happen at 1:30 morning your time. I will not get into that story. The good part you're here, and please, if you just introduce yourself and take it forward, and I'll obviously come in whenever you want me to come in. Please.
Well, first of all, thank you, Vikram, for inviting me today. Good morning here from Monterrey, Mexico. I will talk a little bit today about some of the experience of mediation in Mexico, at least in the past 25 years, which is when I started. To congratulations to you for this big event that is making so much noise around the world. I feel like I have been invited to some kind of rock concert, Woodstock style marathon concert, and I'm going to play my song today to you. So thank you for inviting me. I had a chance to follow some of your activities and some of the people that you invited, some figures of the world of mediation, as you had Colin Rule and some good friends from Argentina, my good friend Luis from Peru, and some others. I was listening to Ana Samble, who is originally from Colombia, and she lives now in San Diego, California, USA. And I found out that she was doing this kind of double presentation in Spanish and English. So I will try to switch from both, because we already talked about this before, and you mentioned that you have some audience also in Spanish. All the presentation, it's written on English, so people can follow while I'm not speaking in English. So, gracias por la invitación. Espero que todos me acompañen en este viaje de hablar un poco sobre la mediación en México con mi buen amigo Vikram.
I just one second. Rafael, just come. I'm sorry, I don't interrupt. Otherwise, you can take
Sure.
your time. That you can take your time, but because the person after you has been stuck somewhere, so I'll record her session later. So you have enough time now. So not a problem.
I do and I don't, because I also have to teach a class in 1 hour and 30 minutes. So that's my limit for today. Well, you asked me to introduce myself, and I can say that I'm consider myself just a lucky guy who had to be or happened to be at the right place and at the right time. I found myself early in my professional career a little disappointed on the practice of law in my country. You know, when I was a student of law, I was a person who believed in justice, since I was grow up in a family where my mother was known as a very popular social fighter in this country for democracy, for respect of the voting. You have to remember that we didn't have democracy here in this country in the 70s or in the 80s until the 90s. And finally, in the year 2000, after more than 70 years of the same ruling party all the time since the Mexican Revolution, we didn't have that chance. So I grew up with that in my house, and it comes from a family story. And yes, my mother happened to be there at that time too. She was a very active person, and she was taking a course on ADR with one of my brothers. We are 6. I'm the 5th of 6 brothers. And while she was taking that training, she mentioned to my brother, you know, this is something that I think it will fit, or Rafa can be good at. So she was thinking of me. So on the next chance that they started a new training, and I didn't know those were like some of the first trainings in Mexico for mediation. There were a couple of trainers from Arizona, from the United States, a couple from Argentina, and something happened, you know, kind of magically way, like a rainbow in front of me, like telling me or calling me, you know, this is something that I would like to do. But at that moment, and I'm talking like mid-90s, there was nothing. It was like a desert. There were no laws, no mediation centers, no nothing. So it was a big chance and land of opportunity. At that time, I was, as Luis, working for a local government from municipality. And I was in charge of getting all the complaints from the neighbors on urban control and how the city is growing and the use of the land. And I found out that many of those conflicts were related just in a community level, just on communication and things from day to day. And I thought that it would be a good idea to try to mediate some of those cases. And I convinced the municipality, the mayor of the city, why we don't open a municipal mediation center. At that time, I didn't know what I was doing, of course, and I didn't know that we were opening the first mediation center from a municipality here in Mexico. That was in 1999. And I thought, well, this can be my way out of, I love the public service, but as happens, and Luis mentioned, you have to deal with the agenda of, politicians and voting and change of governments. So I knew that I was there just for a few times, and I thought it was my way out. I thought it was going to take me maybe a few years to take it from there and to work as a mediator full time. And it happened earlier than I thought. A year and a half, I was resigning to my post, to my responsibility, because I was invited to open other municipal mediation centers nearby the city where I live. And from there, I was hired by the ABA, the American Bar Association, running the first program funded by USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, in 18 states of our country, to start to develop mediation centers, court and exit. There was at that time nothing, no laws, no centers. Y ahora lo que puedo compartir con ustedes es que pues me siento una persona realmente bendecida. I feel blessed. Y que he tenido mucha suerte de que esto llegara a mi vida de manera temprana, influenciado principalmente por mi familia, de estar en el lugar y a la hora correcta para poder hacerlo. Mis orígenes son municipales. En San Pedro Garza García, Nuevo León, es donde empecé a finales de los 90s, y desde ahí he empezado una carrera fabulosa que me ha llevado a hacer muchas cosas que no nos podríamos imaginar. Estaba viendo las fotografías de Luis subiéndose a un helicóptero, a un avión militar, and I was just telling how things change in your life in a way that you cannot expect. Like I was watching some of the pictures from Luis jumping into a helicopter or to a military airplane, so yeah, it's amazing the ride that is taking, and it's taking me today here with you, connected to India and to other places in the world. So yeah, I feel just that a lucky person, and I have been blessed for that. And from there, I have the opportunity to start many projects for different agencies of the government, chambers of commerce, opening mediation associations, helping mediators to connect and to provide services from the public or the private sector, working with universities. Really working in things that I have been working even with schools or penitentiary systems, international commercial cases, community cases, as Luis mentioned, And recently, in the past years, I have been providing my services to the World Bank organization. And just a few months ago, I was contacted by the United Nations to help them in the internal affairs that they have for their employees on those institutions. So I will go on a little bit, talk about first my country, Mexico, where it is exactly what it's about. And even though that everybody knows as Mexico, the official name is Mexican United States, or United States of Mexico, which is in our constitution, but everybody talks just about Mexico. Nobody used that name. It's just an official name that nobody ever used. It's like if you go to Uruguay, they've been called República Oriental del Uruguay. You know, so we in some of our Latin American traditions, we like to have these long kind of novel names, and then we make them shorter just to make it simple. We are a republic, a federal republic, run by states. In this case, Mexico have 32 states, and the one that you see in orange is Nuevo León, or New Lion, which comes, of course, from the colony. There was a region in Spain that is known as León, or Lion. So they were like the new kingdom of Lion. And after that, and after our independence, the royal thing went out, and now it's just New Lion, or Nuevo León. And the capital of that city is Monterrey, where I live, which is the second largest city in the country, with 5 million people living in that area. Of course, our major city is Mexico City, with over 20 million people. And we have something in between 100, by now, maybe 128 or 29 million Mexicans living in this surface, in this area of the country. México es un país también conocido por sus tradiciones. Antes de la colonia teníamos una tradición de los pueblos originales o indios americanos que vivían en esta área y que están reconocidos en la ley, incluso en el lenguaje. Tenemos 68 lenguajes, aparte del español, reconocidos en nuestro país, a pesar de ya más de 200 años de la independencia. El lenguaje nacional es principalmente el español, y tenemos muchas etnias, principalmente de origen de pueblos indígenas o pueblos originarios, y de otros pequeños grupos que han ido llegando a nuestro país en estos años. También otro tema importante tiene que ver con la religión. Y por la colonia y por los españoles es que llega la cristiandad, principalmente católicos, y estos factores de la religión, que tiene que ver con el impacto de la unión que tenía el Estado con la religión, tiene un impacto en el origen de nuestras leyes y cómo es que las vemos. I was just very brief talking about how Mexico is some kind of collage of other ethnic groups and original people from this land, known as American Indians. So at that time they thought they were getting into India, but they were not. I think we have some of those things in common, maybe. So yes, they've been called Indians, or original native groups on this country. And as I mentioned, they are recognized by our constitution. We will see that in the next slide. 68 American Indian languages we have in this country. And of course, religion plays an important role of our history, which impacts also the way how some of our laws have been run in this land. Economically talking, Mexico is in the one of the, well, I won't say major, but I can say that it's in a something around 15 or 16 economy in the world, with a GDP in this number. This is just like a quick picture of many other places in the world, and where is Mexico economically talking in the world, and what it represents in the area, of course, in North America, because North America, it's Canada, the United States, and Mexico. We like to make some kind of jokes with our neighbors from the US, like they are Americans, and we say no, Americans are from Canada to Argentina, which is the continent. And yeah, and when they say, well, North America is a region as well. So but here's just a quick view where it is Mexico in the numbers on the map. But I think more important to that, to me, it's Mexico, it's their people, it's their places. And if you allow me, I will steal you 3 minutes just to give you a quick ride virtually to our country. And please let me know if the video is running, and if not, to switch.
Only thing, Rafael, the risky part is that if you play something from YouTube, sometimes the copyright issue comes up, and YouTube then asks me to actually remove it. It's happened to me for some other episode of some other show.
I know. I assuming that something like that could happen. So I'm already having another window of the video. So if you just give me a second, what I'm going to do is just to switch to that in a couple of seconds, just to play this little video. Now it's on, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What I'm saying is that this video, when you play it, YouTube, because it processes these, sees it that you're publicly putting out a video from YouTube, they actually have the objection to the copyright part. So if we don't play it, I'm happier that way.
Okay, you let me know.
Yeah, because otherwise your thing might have to drop your video from there, because if they ask me they have a copyright objection, it can become a little bit of an issue. So,
all right, this is a public video from the government.
Perfect. That's what we need.
¿Has escuchado el canto de las ballenas? ¿Qué dice? ¿A dónde van? Existe un lugar mágico donde la tierra no se mide por su superficie. Se mide por vivencias que se quedan tatuadas en lo más profundo del alma. Se mide por el tiempo, tiempo sin memoria pero con mucha historia. Se mide por las veces que se suspira al asombro de su belleza. Con cielos bañados en oro que se entregan poco a poco a la inmensidad de la noche bañada en plata. Montañas que tocan los cielos, coronando las cimas con las nubes para unir el paraíso con el eterno. México, pintura que respira y huele a campo, tierra amurallada de océanos que en sus playas descansan, acariciándolas con las olas como llegando a casa.
That's my region.
Tierra fértil, sabia, generosa, con bosques verdes aterciopelados, con árboles de maderas hermosas que trascienden en música para ser escuchados y eternos. Música capeada en sabores, con aromas frescos, alegría y esperanza. colores que si fueran flores serían las mejores. Con poetas, cantantes y pintores que se dan en México de mis amores. Danzantes cayendo del cielo como quetzales, que celebran la vida, que defienden su cultura, que guardan celosos su fe. Porque México es un viaje extraordinario. México extraordinario. Conócelo más y sé parte de él.
Now, Rafael, one more time. Now you have to translate all that into English for us.
One image can talk 1,000 words.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, now everybody's feeling like going to a vacation, right?
Exactly.
Or you're hungry, or you want to go and meet those places, of course, and you are always welcome. Mexico is known also as well as a very welcome country, also in difficult moments. Like for some countries, you have to remember when they had the civil war in Spain, many people from Spain came and took some refugee in Mexico. So Mexico is known as an open arms country. Right now, we are struggling with problems in Central America and the Caribbean. And Mexico is a path or natural path to the United States for people who is looking for opportunity. And some of them find out or they get in love in Mexico and they remain or stay here because how they've been treated, or how they feel. And also so they get maybe more connected culturally to a Latin American country than to the United States. So yes, you're always more than welcome. This just was a quick view and a little taste of our vast culture, gastronomy, history from the Aztecs, the Mayas, from our ancient people, and the present and where it's going. So right now we are going back to the presentation, and yes, here we are. So let's talk a little bit about how it's mediation then and now, and as you saw on the video, you saw these pyramids from the Mayans and the Aztecs, and there's a Mayan salute that goes like in Lakesh, which means I am you, and the other one respond Halaken, you are another me. So it talks and tells a little bit about that ancient culture and how those cultures are today recognized in today's Mexican Constitution in the second article of this document, that it talks about indigenous communities and how they can manage and be regulated and have their own government ways of also resolving conflicts through their traditions and searching for, of course, dignity, integrity, and other respect words, recognizing their culture. So it's there. And even that I live in the north part or northeast part of Mexico, where we don't have many of those ethnic groups, but I know and I have met some from the south of Mexico, states like Oaxaca, Chiapas, and some others nearby Mexico City, which is like in the middle of the country. Some fabulous mediators that they have been trained as mediators, but also talking in their own language, their own tongue, and following some other traditions. They are just marvelous examples of how we can come with this fusion, as Luis was sharing with the traditions of the Incas in Peru and the original people from their country, as we do have also in Mexico. And also, as I mentioned, we are just a few days ago celebrating the finish or the end of the independence movement from the Spanish crown at that moment, that started in 1810 and that war finished in 1921. So we are exactly just a few days ago celebrating our independence. And our first constitution in this country in 1822, it talks about conciliation, as Luis mentioned, and also I listened to Ana Sambo. In some of our Latin American countries, we come more from the tradition of conciliation as a word, because we come from heritage of the Roman laws, and also from the Napoleon civil code tradition. We don't come from the common law, from the Anglo-Saxon tradition or some of those countries. And mediation, it comes more from that culture. In the past years, we have this kind of mix between that tradition and some big influence, of course, since we are just so close from the United States, from the mediation movement in the past 30 or 40 years. But to mention that, we used to have in those traditions, coming from the Roman tradition, to have conciliation before starting a lawsuit. And I'm mentioning this because after something happened in all these years that we got lost. We lost this principle, and everything started to get crazy. Like everything had to go in front of a judge, to a trial, to a tribunal. In today's constitution in Mexico, in Article 17, they have been making some late reforms, one in 2008, that says that the laws, which is kind of open, it doesn't really mention which laws, federal laws, local laws, or civil or family cases or commercial. So in an open way, we can argue that it talks about every law should, or they will provide ADR, alternative, they call them mechanisms, which I don't agree with that term, I don't like it, for the solution of controversies. So this was the first appearance of the topic. And of course, it was related with the change on our criminal system of judgment to have oral processes, and into that new penal or criminal cases, you have ADR, you have mediation, you have conciliation, and you have restorative justice as well. And recently in 2017, they say that, if they get through some requirements like equity between the parties and follow a due process, and the authority should, which means mandatory for the authority, to put first, in the first place, conflict resolution over the formalism of procedure, which in other words is trying to catch back our tradition from 1824. It took us so long to go back, and we are getting in a conflict right now because some of the judges, and especially as Luis mentioned too, especially lawyers, they don't understand, or they don't want to understand what the Constitution says, not today, from 4 years ago, because this was actually being reformed in September 15, 2017. Just a few days was the reform birthday. And lately, we have been changing now, as we did in 2008 for penal cases, labor issues. And the labor reform, it's maybe the most important reform in the past 100 years in this country. Because as it says now in our constitution, you have to go first, workers and employers, to attend to a conciliatory instance. Conciliation is coming back to be mandatory. You cannot go in front of a judge anymore. We are exactly in the middle of this reform because after this, they changed the labor federal law of Mexico to establish how the system was going to run, the new justice system for labor cases. And again, the tradition is with conciliation, not mediation, all this time, especially in labor cases. Before that, I was just saying that we are in the middle of. So what they did was to establish a plan for 3 years. The first year, a third part of the states of the union, they started to close their conciliation and arbitration places, which actually they didn't work for the judicial system. They belonged to the executive branch, which is what it was kind of rare thing to have, because as we all know, and since we are a republic, the only place where you can call and ask for justice had to be the judicial system. So it was something kind of strange thing that we have for over 100 years. Now we are opening for the first time tribunals and judges specialized in labor matters. And the executive branch kept the conciliation centers in the federal cases and in local cases as well. And right now in October 1st, the second part of these 3 groups of states will open. And next year in 2022, the last third part of this group of states. So in 2022, the entire country will be running the new system where conciliation will be mandatory. Actually, that's what I have to run in an hour to teach a class for the new conciliators for this new system in one of the states that I was reached to help them go through with the experience that we have in the past 25 years in the tribunals and in the court systems in Mexico. Because as I'm going to show you, these are just a few ideas of the most of the 32 states of Mexico. Of course, not all of them are here in this slide. They have these mediation centers. Now there is no much more conciliation in this big influence that we have from other countries, with also the impact of signing commercial treaties with Canada and the United States for commercial cases. In the early 90s, it came with this influence. And of course, the world starts to switch from conciliation to mediation. Some states call it alternative justice, which you might see around. Some they call about ADR, like medios alternos de solución de controversias. Otros dicen justicia alternativa. Otros dicen centros de mediación. So it's kind of messy because everybody put the name that they want to this child, but basically they do all the same service, which is mediation, or a mixing between mediation and conciliation, depending on the case or what the parties need to be provided as a service by the state. So most of all the states in the country, they have a local law for family for commercial and civil cases. And these are free services provided by the state. Mediation right now is not mandatory, which means that very few people know after all these years that they even exist. So the numbers are really very low. They don't take in the highest state right now that they have more cases is Jalisco, this one right over here. They resolve like 30% of all the cases that they have in their court system. And another thing is 6 of 10 of those cases are solved by private mediators. So that means that there's no cost for the state. So those are like signs on the right direction that we should be taking. Actually, in this labor reform, in this first year, they started to have a 70% of efficiency or cases resolved by conciliation, which means that the 100% of cases that they used to go to a tribunal, now they will get only 30%, which is good news, I think, for a judge to have 30 and not 100% of all the cases, because otherwise the system will just crack down as it is. And even in some of the states, they're starting to get even higher. 80 or 85% of the cases on labor matters resolved by conciliation. So that means the design of the system and the reform is working, because the thing is not to have everyone get into the judicial system. What are some of the next steps or challenges that we have in this, that we are facing in this country? Well, there was also a constitutional reform that provided the Congress of the Union, which is, we have these two chambers, the Senate and the deputies from the federal Congress. They changed the constitution in order for them to provide us with a general law on ADR, una ley general de mecanismos alternativos de solución de conflictos, básicamente en mediación, que está esperando ahorita ser aprobado en el Senado. Tiene 3 años, has 3 years waiting this law. The Constitution says that they have to provide us with this law in a term no longer than 180 days, which passed already 3 years after that. And some of the challenges are right here written. Uno es la mediación obligatoria, mandatory mediation. And in a way, I'm happy to have my colleague from Italy, because we have been in contact with some of the experiences that they have in the Italian model of mediation. In a way, we follow some of the steps that you were in the past. And I think we're moving into that direction to have a pre-mediation or a mandatory mediation before starting, as we already have in labor cases. Now we want to move the same movement into civil, family, and commercial cases, which is not easy when you talk with judges and lawyers to convince them on the benefits. And we always tell them about the international experience in other places, not too far. We don't have to go all the way to Europe or other countries. Here in Latin America, we have the example of Argentina and other judicial systems similar to ours in Mexico. Tenemos que reconocer, amigos, que ha funcionado el sistema de la mediación prejudicial previa a ir a un sistema de justicia para hacerlo más eficiente. Another topic and hot topic is we have this thing in some of these Latin American countries that you have to be certified in order to become a mediator, which I know that is kind of rare in other places, other countries. But it's the way it is our culture, I guess, that we come from a distrust culture that you have to convince before, even started. So yeah. And of course, it's been a a topic because every one of these 32 states, they thought that they were inventing mediation. So you have many different rules in order to become a certified mediator in Mexico. From one state to another, it feels like you're going from one planet of mediation to another planet. You know, that different. Like in one, they have like this long run with many obstacles, which becomes like almost impossible. And in others, if you breathe and you don't die, you can become mediator, you know? So another thing that it's important in this project is the value of the agreement of mediation, which is a Latin term res judicata, which means that the value of this agreement is equal to a sentence or an award by an arbitrator or a sentence by a judge, the same level. And this has been already recognized by the Supreme Court of this country. So yeah, these are big words because at the end, you have a document legally talking with that impact, with that efficiency. And another thing that we are considering in this project, I had the opportunity to talk and to advise a little bit the Senate, the president of the Justice Commission of the Senate. I know him from a few years ago when he was the president of the tribunal in the state of Hidalgo, which is nearby Mexico City. And when we are already talking about the use of online dispute resolution and how it can be recognized and the things that we need to work in order to provide it with support, like the kind of signature, how recognize those by the law. And I think that we were missing all these years the social view of mediation, because we've been working so much with lawyers, with laws, with tribunals, and we, I think, forgot the most maybe important and where we can get more impact, which is community mediation, which means going to schools, of course, to work on the neighborhoods, on community level, on native people or indigenous or our original people that is being here all the time. So yeah, and this project is trying to promote and to increase and to socialize really mediation to get impact, because if we only work by tribunals, that's only a very few percentage of the people of this country that have the chance to go into those systems, because it's expensive. It's not for everyone. It's sad to recognize it, but it's true. So, for instance, this is a 5 million people city, and the tribunal gets a year in this state only like 140,000 cases a year. So nobody is gonna make me believe that from 5 million people, they only get in conflict 140,000 times in all different areas, like civil family cases. So if the conflicts are not in the tribunals where they are at home, on the families. The conflict is in the schools. Schools is getting a kind of risky place to go back. We have a very deep and complex conflict on the schools right now in Mexico. It's getting really violent. And of course, the conflict is on the neighborhood, you know, with your neighbors. So those are the places that we have to go. You know, we have to go to this. So it's not like a passive public law that is going to open a center and sit there to wait for people to come. We need to approach with a public policy where we go and find them and help them in these conflicts on the first hand. So yeah, the houses, the family, the school, and the neighbor, I think is like the second wave of mediation, and it's time to make some social justice to people through these opportunities. Of course, and sadly, we are still waiting as a country to sign the Singapore Convention. Hope that happens soon. Because we all know, and I have heard some of the people that was here in this big rock concert of mediation, talking about the importance of this Singapore Convention, which I won't go through because I know that many of our colleagues know what it's about and how important it is. And since we are in the first 15 economies in the world, of course, we should be, and I hope soon, we are pushing in that direction to authorities to talk and make them see the importance of being part of this convention. So that's it for now. This is just a quick view, taste, and ideas of what is a little bit of the mediation movement in our country. I'm here and happy to talk with you and maybe to get into a conversation deeper in some of these things. Of course, you have here my email and you have my social media, my Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter accounts. So thank you, Vikram. And
you can't, don't stop the slideshow because that last slide is very important. You can't understand how important that is.
Sure.
I'll tell you why. Yeah, the next one, the last one. This is what the important part is, all these thank yous in all the languages. Now you have to say it in all the languages, because this is what I think Anna also had that. I said, because you put it, now you have to say it in all those languages.
You see, I switch into an English, and I forgot that I promised that I was going to put some in Spanish. I'm really sorry for that.
Please do it. Please do it. Please do it, Rafael. No problem. We have time. I told you the next speaker is not.
Solo unas pequeñas palabras. Primero de pedir una disculpa. A veces es difícil cambiar de el inglés al español, y una vez que a veces empiezo y como la presentación está en inglés, me dejé llevar un poco por la emoción. I guess I got a little excited about talking about what I love, which is mediation and of course my country. Y pues el estar aquí con ustedes, el dejarles aquí mis datos. Vikram quiere que yo les diga todas las maneras de decir gracias, lo cual es imposible. It's impossible. I'm really sorry not to please you today with all, because I only know Spanish and I speak a little bit of English just to try to make myself explain. Pero gracias, Vikram, por la invitación. Gracias a quienes en habla hispana nos puedan seguir. Lo que tenemos en México, lo que ha estado ocurriendo en América Latina, los ejemplos de colegas y países como Argentina, Luis aquí que está de Perú, otros colegas y buenos amigos que tenemos en otras partes y regiones. Esta gran aventura que ha sido en mi vida profesional, la mediación, donde he conocido personas extraordinarias, y el trabajo que hago para el Banco Mundial y para Naciones Unidas, donde puedo conocer y trabajar con mediadores prácticamente de todo el mundo. I'm just saying how lucky I am to be on this journey of mediation and to connect with many mediators from all over the world through the experience that I have working to the World Bank organization, and also 5 of their agencies of the United Nations as well, and to reach and know other experiences and other people from all over the world. And today, being here with you, Vikram, is certainly a pleasure and a privilege to be here and be considered in this big event that you're having. I just run 1 mile from this big marathon that you have been running for I don't know how much. I do, in a way, envy you, and in another way, I'm really sorry, because all the time that you have to be here and sitting, it's I think it's a great experience. You will have to write a book after you finish this and share it with us. All right.
No, all of you have to contribute. I sent that mail. all the presentations that are happening, let's put it down. Everyone puts a paper. Let's compile it. It's a good resource for the world to have, because all this vast knowledge which is coming out, I think we need to put it out. So please, whatever your presentation was, put it in a paper form and let's compile it.
Happy to do it, and very pleased to share it. And you know, I have been following many other activities around the world, and I consider yours unique and different. So thank you for that, and for bringing this to the field of mediation, and to provide this to the world. So congrats for that. That's a big accomplishment.
Thank you very much. I mean, these are the words of appreciation which actually make me go on, because you need to go on and you have to have people appreciating it also. I mean, I still do what I do, but it's always good to have that. But do you want to take through the presentation in Spanish quickly? You can do that. I mean, you can start from whatever you didn't take them through.
I might just say, I think this is, to me, this is maybe the most important things, like what is going into the near future. And if you allow me just a few minutes just to say a few words for our Hispanic audience. Estaba comentando con Vikram que de toda la presentación, y nuevamente una disculpa de haber pasado un poco por alto el regresar a hablar a nuestra lengua, el español, el castellano, que para mí esta es la lámina más importante de todo lo que les tengo que compartir, porque más allá de la historia y de lo que se ha hecho o se ha dejado de hacer, al menos en México lo que estamos enfrentando, pienso yo, es un momento clave, porque la mediación creció de abajo hacia arriba, creció de los estados y luego llegó a la federación. Muchas políticas públicas crecen de la federación y bajan a los estados. La mediación fue al revés, de abajo hacia arriba. Y de la experiencia de los estados se hizo un desorden donde los estados legislaron de maneras muy distintas. Les decía a Vikram que en algunos estados es como una carrera de obstáculos casi imposible para certificarse como mediador, y en otros estados prácticamente si respiras y no te mueres, te certifican como mediador. Entonces, las diferencias son abismales. Por eso, los temas importantes de esta ley general es que va a poner orden en los estados para que podamos decir que tenemos mediación en Tijuana, mediación en la Ciudad de México o en otras partes del país, que sea igual en todas partes y no todas las diferencias que hemos tenido. El hecho que la mediación sea obligatoria o mandatoria es importante porque va a incrementar el número de casos que vamos a tener. Va a requerir más mediadores y el Estado se preocupa por proveer, vamos a decir, o certificar la calidad de quienes proveen estos servicios, y entonces va a hablar de este tema importante para que exista una única certificación nacional, no 32 diferentes. Que el valor del acuerdo tenga valor de cosa juzgada, quiere decir que si alguien tiene un acuerdo de mediación y este no se cumple, se puede ejecutar de manera forzosa ante un juez sin necesidad ya de ir a un juicio. Y estas son palabras mayores del valor que el acuerdo puede tener. Obviamente, el uso de los ODRs o de los Online Dispute Resolution, la resolución en línea de las disputas, no solo por la situación del COVID-19 y de la pandemia, pero es una práctica que tiene ya muchos años en el mundo, que acorta distancias, que llega más rápido y a más personas a través, por ejemplo, de dispositivos electrónicos, donde en un país como México, una de dos casas, la mitad del 50% de los mexicanos en su casa tienen internet, y de 127 millones de mexicanos, más de 80 millones de mexicanos tienen acceso a un teléfono inteligente, un smartphone para conectarse. Entonces ya no es algo ni de ciencia ficción, ni para un estatus económico muy alto, porque prácticamente la gran mayoría de la población tiene algún tipo de manera de conectarse. Finalmente, pero no menos importante, la mediación comunitaria. Es decir, la segunda ola de la mediación en México debe de ser con una visión de socialización de la mediación. Esta debe ser en las escuelas, en el vecindario y con las comunidades originales, con las comunidades indígenas de nuestro país, porque los problemas, le decía a Vikram, no están en los tribunales. Aquí donde yo vivo somos 5 millones de habitantes y de ahí al tribunal ingresan 140,000 casos al año. Nadie me va a hacer creer que 5 millones solo generan 140,000 conflictos. Entonces, si los problemas no están en los tribunales, ¿en dónde están? Están en la familia, en la casa. Los problemas están en las escuelas, donde los niveles de violencia aquí en México se han incrementado de manera espantosa. Y finalmente están en el barrio, están en la comunidad. Entonces, creo que es donde tenemos que hacerle justicia a las personas de a pie, de socializar, y en vez de abrir un centro y cerrarnos o sentarnos a esperar a que lleguen a nosotros, una política pública que haga que esto llegue a las personas, que vayamos a buscarlos y ayudarles a resolver la conflictividad y sobre todo a pacificar nuestro país. México es un país convulsionado, como muchos otros, con altos niveles de violencia y necesitamos bajar la violencia en la que estamos viviendo. Ayer fue el Día Internacional de la Paz de Naciones Unidas. Yesterday was the International Day of Peace that we were just celebrating and yesterday with a conference. And I'm just telling our Hispanic audience about how the importance of being part and to build this peace culture around the world, and specifically in countries as Mexico and others with such a high level of conflicts and violence related with them. Y finalmente esperamos México firme la Convención de Singapur. Les digo, hope soon, pronto, porque somos la 15ª economía del planeta y tenemos que estar ahí, porque entonces va a florecer el comercio, el cual trae trabajo, inversión extranjera y otras cosas que ayudan a las economías de los países. Entonces, definitivamente, la Convención de Singapur, como la Convención de Nueva York de 1958 para arbitraje, que dio un gran impulso en su momento, esto dará un gran impulso a nivel mundial, seguramente, para la mediación comercial internacional. So that's about the resume, a quick view in Spanish of some of the ideas that I mentioned of what is waiting just next corner. We are hoping every week I get in contact with the people for the Senate if they are ready, and if they're ready. And this has been a long run for me in the past 3 years that I've been following this in the Congress of the Union and see if we get the light out of this tunnel after all this long journey. I think it's something that we are expecting for many years. And these are the things that a country as Mexico need urgently. We need this not today, yesterday. So we are running a little late, but it's never late to be in peace and to try to promote and change for a better culture. So those are my 5 cents for today.
Excellent presentation. I mean, really covered a lot of things. But one thing, I mean, Rafael, I've always been trying to come to this. How many mediators do you need in a million population or something? I mean, do we have some kind of gauge that we can have from there?
No, I think that we need, of course, this is a matter of numbers. Because that's one of the issues that they say, no, you cannot have mandatory mediation because you don't have enough mediators. First, as the state, we don't have enough budget. And how long is going to take us to make an army of mediators for this country? And I say, you have the numbers, you are the government. How many cases? Let's start from the court system. How many cases you have? For instance, here in Nuevo León, 140,000 cases a year, okay? How many of them are getting into a mediation by law, let's say that not, as you know, not all of the cases are for mediation. There are some issues related with law that cannot allow you to go to mediation, of course, but let's say like 80% of those can go to mediation. So you start to go and play with the numbers. And after that, you have to come with a plan. So that's one of the things that we are discussing right now for this law, to have some kind of transition from the, I mean, not like from one day to another, because it's just going to crack. It's not going to work. But let's say that it will take you 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years in order to run the entire system, as they're running right now in labor cases, you know, to provide services, public and private mediation as well. Because I think that the future of mediation is not in the public system, because that is always coded by budget. And they always have a conflict with the budget, because that is not going to change, but it's not going to grow, especially in this recent economy impacted by COVID-19, which not just Mexico, but the entire world, the economy is slowing down or even going backwards in some cases. So I don't know, I don't have the number, but I know we have very few mediators. I mean, we have like 1,600 certified mediators in Mexico. For 127 million population is like nothing, like a drop on the ocean. So I know that in Italy they have, I don't know, something around 17, 23, 20. Well, you tell me the number.
Yeah, you can say that. You can write it in the chat if you want to.
23,000.
Okay.
23,000. Right. So, and that's, Italy is about half of the population that we have in Mexico, about, yeah, like 70 million or something. Well,
yes,
60,
Giovanni.
60 million.
60 million, right? And we have 120. So if you make the numbers, so I'm not good in numbers. Maybe that's why I study law, not mathematician. But it's simple math. You know, you have to go to the numbers. You have to run and to project how you can go and how long it's going to take you. What's the number of cases? You know, to have this to move forward in order to have an idea of what is going to happen. And of course, we have been following a little bit about the Italian experience, of course. I met Giuseppe De Palo and some other mediators from Italy. And I use them sometimes as an example of where they were before, as we are right now. So there are some similarities in between our history in Italy and Mexico. So we don't only share the colors of our flags. Of course, that we have the eagle in the middle, but and yeah, to us is a good example of how it can be done. But of course, it's not that simple. You have to come with numbers and strategies on how to make it run, the hows, the know-how, and how to run it. Because of course, Mexico is not Argentina, or is not Italy, or is not Peru, when you have to check on some of those things. But I'm assuming that it won't be that big difference if you have the willingness and you empower the system in order to work like that. And we have hope on the labor cases that right now they're dropping down and resolving at least something in between 70 and 80% of all cases, which is, of course, big news and good news for the judicial system in our country. So I'm hoping that to happen to other areas as civil, family, and commercial cases. And I don't know what will be the number, if it's going to take us 1, 2, or 3 years, because at the end, the question is how long it takes you to become a mediator. Everybody has their own idea. Basically, in the United States experience, they have some kind of basic training that goes something in between 40 or 50 or 60 hours. In our Latin American Culture, we go more for the universities. We like the long term. We make everything larger, no shorter. So here they say 80 hours, 100 hours, 120, 180 hours, something in between that range. In my experience, you just never finish. You have to be always, getting ready to, but what is enough? What is enough to say, and to be fair, that you can say that you are a mediator? When, I mean, it's a tricky question to ask, when you can say that you are ready in order to provide a professional service compared to other activities, like to become a medic or a lawyer or an architect or an engineer or other activities. And I don't even know if it's fair to compare with that. Exactly. So it's totally different. And whatever it takes, this is the right path that we have to follow. That, to me, it's clear, crystal clear, the what is next steps for us in Mexico.
Because the way I look at it is, obviously numbers are huge that you need. How I look at it is, maybe it's been taken in the wrong direction to be compared to, say, training in the legal profession or a doctor and that side. I look at it from the other end. I'm saying, do we have to train a mother to be a mother? There are certain things which are person to person things. You are born with it. That connection by itself creates everything around it. So I look at as mediators to be special people like that. And I don't see you being able to make a mediator. And my whole series, that evolution of a mediator that I started, was only for this. If Ken Cloke is Ken Cloke today, is for all his experiences, circumstances, everything that makes him what he is. Not that 40-hour training that you put him through. That'd be really discounting a person's experiences and the person themselves. So I think maybe we've taken it to a direction that, okay, you are providing service, so we need you to have some certification. But see what kind of service. The kind of person-to-person thing is, I don't see you putting a person to 1 million hours of training. Also, you can create that thing in the person. So I'm just thinking that maybe we've taken it in the wrong direction. And I don't see it working in countries like the US also, which I keep discussing in the symposium, that if you're going through the court process, and if you go through 100 million cases in the court system, then in 45 years, that culture of mediation, that means didn't develop. Then that means we're not getting anywhere. If in our cultures, in our countries, if we are not able to create that culture, like you're saying, at the school and the community level, then I don't think that we will actually get where we want to. Because finally, what do you want? You don't want a litigious society to develop. You want people to be resolving them much before they even go to a lawyer, maybe. I mean, at that stage itself, they should not even reach that. So I think we need to create that model where we have to be able to explain to people that it's a different kind of service. You have to find the person you trust. And okay, bringing out those people is what I'm trying to do. That let's bring those people out whom people already trust in communities. They already know. I'm telling you, they're all identified. And in the traditional system also, it was not that all elders are the ones who you were mediating. It was specific people. In families also, it's not that everyone is the elder that you go to. You only go to some. So I think that we have to maybe look at it differently. I don't know how you look at it, if you have some suggestion on this.
I think sometimes I find myself like trying to promote mediation like the word of the Bible or something like that, and turns it some kind of exorcism at the end, because you have to deal sometimes with there's still much ignorance on mediation in a country like Mexico, even after 25 years. And I have to say, sadly, a failed model of mediation that we have. Because after 25 years of saying that nobody knows that they even exist, and the percentage of people who have the chance to go to those services is equal to almost nothing. It's not that I'm saying that they have done nothing, but it's the impact that you have to do in order to say that this is a successful model. It's just not happening. So we have to move from what we have today, and not just on the judicial system, that of course is important, but as I mentioned, also to provide this to people on the streets, on their families, on their schools, on their communities. So I kind of applaud that part, that is trying to solve both. How the judicial system can run better and more efficiently before even get everything there and get it just so crowded and collapse as it is. And also to provide some kind of social justice through some of the good examples that Luis and other of my colleagues are working all over the world, and it's so needed in collapsed societies and violence that is just making us sad to read the news every day and to find out that we have so much to learn as a society as well.
Rafael, please stop looking at the news. You only get negative, nothing else. I've stopped watching it. It's been more than a year. I'm telling you, the positivity that is around us, we just get that we lose it or something like that. But importantly, I think,
yeah, no, I just said I truly understand you, and sometimes I don't see much TV or radio, but I have a newspaper where I select what I want to read or not.
Rafael, that's what you think, that you are selecting. It has all been selected for you. So don't even ever think that what you're getting is.
I know.
Yes. But I'm telling you, what we maybe going wrong also is that we're not looking back enough. What was the idea behind the symposium? Let's look back as much as back that we can in a certain culture, in our society, in our country. How back can we go? So indigenous communities is where we go. So are we going to be able to study that and pick up from there and take it forward? So some interesting presentations we've had on that. I would want you to go through them. One, of course, is the one from David Shimoni from Israel. He talks about a hybrid model, that the traditional has a certain value, because be it the rabbi or whoever trusted by the community, but still deciding for the parties. On the other end, we can get in what we call a modern mediator to balance those things out. So he has that model. Then today we had James from Kenya. Of course, his internet was a little not too good, so I'm recording it again. It was an excellent part, because this is what the symposium was all about. So he's working in Africa right now. Obviously, he's working in East Africa, but he's working on these traditional people who are already doing it. He's working with them to how to be able to bring them out of this decision-making thing and more a mediation as we know it, and also the little social changes which are happening over time for them to adopt it, the role of women, that aspect of it. Then we had, like in South Africa, we were discussing with Viraj on her experience there. So her thing was that in the traditional mediation, the women don't have a voice. So when she's doing it, obviously they get that voice. So that actually can be an aspect of social change, because she says when that husband goes back to his family, he's now heard his wife for the first time. She's actually spoken to someone. So he brings that to the family. They then start understanding it. So not just a matter of the mediation, the social change that can happen with it. So I think maybe we're not taking it in the direction, and this whole court-related mediation that has been going around, I think is not what really is what is going to change things in the long run. Today, it is a matter of the court backlog. Okay, we want to finish the backlog. How do we do it? Let's give it free, almost free. But at the end of the day, the profession has to develop. So is that happening? Do you see that happening? Well, just one second. Do you see the profession developing as such, as private practice, as we call it?
Yes, and I think it's going to grow if at least in the judicial system for thousands and thousands of cases, it become mandatory before going to a trial. Of course, it's going to grow and it will need many mediators. So at least I think we have a good base to start, which is the experience for the past 25 years of many lawyers and mediators, mostly in the public sector, and a few of us who are trying to survive and not to die in the intent of becoming a mediator. I have done it. I don't know how I have survived. I'm one of the survivors. And I'm sure it's going to be an opportunity. And I have been working with many universities, and new lawyers, they start to look different. The youngers, they're getting prepared. They're already taking, and they say, I am considering this as another opportunity, not just to be a classical regular lawyer, which of course I am because I have been studying this for 5 years, but I also have another chance. And in some other cases, they say, no, now I found out what I'm good at. And I wanted to be, yes, I'm a lawyer, but I decided today, from day one, that this is what I want to do, more than to become a classical regular lawyer, to be a mediator. And this past week, I just have known that a group of young students that they are in the last year, that they were on we have a national competition like the one they have in the ICC for mediation. And they were so excited about that competition that they just opened their mediation center on their university. And now they, a couple of months after that, last week, they just opened their private mediation center recognized by the tribunal of their state. And they were so happy. And they are just in the day one to become a professional. They just finished university last week. So I think there's a hope also in the new generations to come. They do understand this very quick, and they found out that there's an opportunity for them and for everyone in this not so new field. And the base that we have built, at least we have enough for them in order to have now all the trainings, because 25 years or 30 years ago, there was nothing. We have to hire trainings from the United States, from Spain, from Chile, Peru, or Argentina, or other countries that they were more advanced and they have more experience, because there was no experience in Mexico. We are not on that stage anymore. I think that we have enough and a strong base to grow and to build from there, from what we need in the years to come.
Because the problem that I am seeing around the world is that, look, the way I look at it, the court system has to, of course, dispense justice, and they have to do it in a timely manner, which they're not being able to because of the backlog. So they say mandatory mediation. Now, mandatory mediation means that you are sending them to a process which obviously they're not come for. So if you ask them to pay market rates for a process which they were not supposed to, which is not what they came to you for, so you can't do that to them. So you have to subsidize it, whatever way you do. Taxpayers' money is going to go in funding people's disputes, because you can't tell them to pay, because once you tell them to pay, they're going to say, how can you do that to us? We did not come to for this process. We came for what you are supposed to be, and as under the Constitution, you are going to give us justice as we know it. So they can't ask them to pay. Now, if you can't ask them to pay, definitely mediators, the state might fund it, but the parties will never pay. If the parties don't pay, how will they ever value the process? Anything for free. I'm saying anything given for free in anywhere in the world. How do you value it? So this is what, yeah.
But this is a kind of tricky thing. What is free? Nothing is free in this world, my friend. Not even public services. A public service is a service that you already pay in advance at your taxes. So to begin, I mean, if they were not getting paid by the state, then we can talk that it's for free. But they charge they get paid every 15 days a salary. So it's not free. It's something that you already pay in advance. It's just that it happens that you haven't been there to use it first. Secondly, I think it depends how you present it. And of course, it is more expensive. And in a country as it is Mexico, the economy of many other people, they just cannot be, not even in a public service, because they have to pay some specific study from a specialist. They have to even have the copies of the experience. They don't even have the money to do those kind of things, that they won't get paid by the state. They won't pay it by your own taxes. You have to pay by your own money. And they don't have also the time. And there's have to be a balance, as it is in anything else, between public and private services, because that goes also for the health system. We have public and private hospitals. We have public and private lawyers. We have public and private schools. You cannot say that we are going to close all the private schools, because have to be a free, no charge education system, because it's under the law that it should be provided by the state. because we all know that there's not big enough state and budget for everyone. It's just as simple as that. So people have to choose. That is fair, and that is not, I don't know, that is reality. That's what it is, and that's what you have, and you can decide if you want to go for a public service, which means that you have maybe make a longer line to get into to get your number called, or you go to a private one, which means that you have to pay, and from there the market will run the prices, how much it will charge you a doctor or an architect to build your house. If you have, well, it goes from different prices, or you have to, you have, I have to say that it's not to take less, but to provide more opportunities. And the people is going to select which service they want to use in order on their preference and their reality. And I also have to say that not me, but the Supreme Court of this nation has considered mediation as a human right to get into to get justice, which says that it's a better way, because that's what the authorities should provide you, a better and easier way, not a longer, more expensive, and that is going to take, I don't know how many years. So it's easy to convince that this is not an obstacle to get justice. It's a better way, and it's being considered in some of the resolutions of the Supreme Court that is considered as an access to justice as a human right.
Well, I'm surprised when that direction is taken, because if I have a dispute and I resolve it with someone else, I'm getting access to justice. I just feel that we've taken it to that direction because countries and their courts have not been able to do what they were supposed to do. And like I said, justice delayed is justice denied, and they obviously are denying justice in that sense. But like you said, but you're saying that, look, a public service and that part of it, but the kind of public service, what are we doing? We're talking about a person's dispute, and a taxpayer pays for a hospital, pays for a road, and he also gets access to that. Funding a person's dispute doesn't give him anything. The idea is you should not be into disputes. So why should you be funding someone's dispute? That is what my problem with the whole court system. And even if you pay someone a salary, if you pay a mediator a salary to resolve someone's dispute, about why are you funding people's disputes? I ask that question always, that are we creating an atmosphere that you have a dispute, you fight, come to us, we will help you resolve it for free. I mean, that connection is not, it's not a good foundation. And because of that good foundation, this whole thing will not go forward. And that's why it hasn't gone forward. The foundation is wrong. So I'm saying that if we have to have a long-term view, and the long-term view is that we have to develop a culture of mediation. I see that as the way forward for any society. So I think I mean, if you worked on that, and the community mediation aspect of it, how that is going to work out, I think you have to show us a light or a future in that.
I think also specifically in the case of Mexico, it also is related with our history, because you have to remember that the Mexican Revolution, which was the first social revolution of the 20th century, it was a social revolution, and one of the claims of the revolution, it had to be with justice, among other things. That's why our late constitution from 1977, at the end of the revolution movement, it makes this idea of government taking care and charge of everything. And on those days, I think it was, well, and sometimes I feel like this ghost of the revolution, after more than 100 years, is still talking to the ears of some of the politicians, because it's the right thing to say in order to follow the line of history. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But we are not in 1917 anymore. And this is a country that has grown so much from what it was 100 years ago, and we are not there anymore. And I think it's, again, people's decision, people's choice, and to have a public policy to open the game, to open the market, to open and provide more opportunities you cannot take my opportunities away by law, because that's my right to choose, not you as a government. And that's our claim to them. Provide us with more opportunities, more areas to grow, and the people and the market will decide.
Yeah, ultimately market. Yeah,
It happens in other places in the world, and we are not going to be the exception, because we cannot run this country as in 1917 after the Mexican Revolution. Yeah. So it had to be also with the political right thing to say sometimes in some places, but the true and the reality is other. And we had to face and to come out with strategies, clever and smart strategies, to really make it work and to impact really in the lives of the people of this country. Yeah. I have 5 minutes to
5 minutes. 5 minutes. I want to be a very important point. I wanted, because I'll tell you, look, for me, the fact is that mediators have to earn their livelihood properly and very well. Why should they not be doing it? They're providing a very good service. So this whole concept of the court system, what I'm saying is, why don't you tell the lawyers and they create the same system as you have for mediators? Let them be paid the same amount. If you pay $100 for a mediation, lawyers should not be able to charge more than $100 for a matter. And see how suddenly all the lawyers are on the street. Mediators are not on the street. They don't come out on the street. But why is the same logic applies to them also? They are also part of that dispute resolution process. How come they are allowed to charge what they want? And they're also the same thing, people not being able to afford it. A person can't afford it, you give free legal aid. There is free legal aid available. But today we are providing it for people who themselves can pay. So why are we subsidizing people's disputes is what I want to say. I think the way forward is to be able to understand that this is a profession. There are some people who can't pay for any service. If people who can't pay, we do look at it from the state perspective, be it hospitals, be it the lawyers. At least in India, we have concept of legal aid, free legal aid is given. So that is a different thing. But people who can pay are not paying. And ultimately, if mediators are out there in large numbers, I see change happening in society. And I would want Louis to give his, he's heard everything. Louis, you want to say something to Rafael before he?
It's amazing work that Rafael is doing, and we met more than 10 years ago in the United States in one of those ACR conferences. It's great work that you are doing, Rafael, and it's great to see you again.
Very pleased. Gracias, Luis. Un gusto verte nuevamente.
And Vikram, that's also great. As Rafael said, this is like Woodstock. This is a marathon rock stars.
The moment he said that, it was amazing, that comparison.
Yeah. He's great. He's really awesome.
But you know that
if I can choose, I want to be Carlos Santana.
But let me tell you, Rafael, this is going to go on my next post. The Woodstock of mediation is going to go there. It's amazing what he said.
And you gotta say thank you to Rafael Lobo from Mexico, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's going to be put there. As Rafael says, this is the Woodstock of mediation.
That's great. Yeah, amazing. Okay, great to see you guys.
Thank you very much for coming in. And Rafael, thank you very much. I think you, like Louis said, that you're doing wonderful work. And definitely, I mean, the lots has to happen. But the direction that we have to go, I think one is, of course, what Louis is doing, and Louis is doing in terms of communities, and that definitely has to develop a lot there, I think. So everyone's doing such interesting work all over. I think they're now just putting it together and getting all that information out to people to look at mediation differently. I think maybe that whole little box that has been created around mediation, we have to be able to say that, look, it is a much larger thing. Lots has to happen in it. And people like you, thought leaders and everything, we have to all get everyone together and then take it forward. I think damn good. So thank you, Rafael. And well, pleasure speaking to you and listening to you.
Thank you, Luis, for waiting here. Giovanni, I'm sorry I have to run. I would love to.
Let's go. Let's go.
I will check on your on Vikram YouTube page later on some of other of the mediators invited. I seen Isaac from Ghana is just jumping in. So all the best, take care, be safe. God bless you, and thank you again, Vikram, for inviting me and to share some of these moments with this big marathon, this big concert.
Yeah.
And if I have to choose, I remember Carlos Santana, a Mexican rocker that it was in Woodstock at that time. He's still there,
Yeah.
alive and kicking. So
Yeah. See you guys.
God bless you,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot.
See you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.